So I want to ask you a question about, I appreciate the hiring process information. I'm curious about when you're looking at an SDR candidate, what's your perspective on, will you hire somebody who's been an SDR before, somebody who's been an SDR for 5 years, or a school teacher, bartender, cafe manager, that sort of thing? What are you looking for? Are there any attributes that disqualify a candidate as an SDR?
Wow, great question. There are a lot of attributes that can disqualify you as an SDR candidate, but not generally to me based on what roles you've had in the past. I think people from many different walks of life, like I think, it comes back to some of the things I said before, like, do they want this job? Do they understand what your day-to-day will be? And if they're game, that's cool with me. What will disqualify you, and for me, when I look at a candidate, I look for, like, I try and look for patterns of concerning behavior. So like maybe you've been an SDR in the past, but you lasted 3 months and that has happened 3 or 4 times, right? If you look at your resume, like you've been an SDR and it's never worked out. I don't know why it would work out here, right? Like unless there's some really extenuating circumstance. The best SDRs, in my experience, this is really hard to find, but I have one now. She's amazing. She was an AE in a different industry. So she was working in like a really sort of literally like paper-based industry, Cintas, so like shredding paper and
Oh,
selling, like
yeah, yeah.
paper towels, and wanted to get into tech. And was willing to kind of start over as an SDR and is now just crushing it. So that kind of person, that's a hard profile to find. If you can find them, like hire them. They're going to, if they've been a successful AE and they're willing to go be an SDR, they're going to do well, but they're going to want to get promoted quickly. It's something to know. I will say there's a bit of nuance here. It really depends on like what position you're in as your company. If you're part of a big company and you can afford to kind of roll the dice on a candidate who did well in the interview process and has a great attitude, but doesn't have a solid track record in their background, like do it. If you're hiring your first SDR, don't gamble. You need, and so like, you've asked a couple of times, like, what do I look for? Like, I really optimize for two things. I optimize, or maybe more than two, but coachability, like we've talked about. Like if I'm a good coach and I deserve to be an SDR manager, I should be able to coach a willing person to a high enough, level of competency that they're going to hit the number. Money motivated, super important. I've actually run into a few people in my career who were not money motivated, and I'm only money motivated when it comes to my career. So I was baffled by them. I was like, I don't even know what to do with you. I ended up having to let those people go. They just like, weren't a good fit. And the third thing is typically follows the first two is hustle. Like, I don't want to have to be on you to do the work. I want to have to be helping you do the work better, not starting at that baseline of like, please make your calls.
Hmm. Interesting. I love the, hustle, curiosity, that sort of ownership level to it, and coachability, if I didn't say that already. Those unicorn SDRs that are willing to take a step back to get into tech, incredible. I will always take a chance on somebody like that, because it's not really much of a chance if they have a documented, proven history of. Our VP of sales development right now, he did the same thing. He sold planes for Cessna, said I wanted to get into tech, took a job at a tech company in Calgary, he was in SDR for 5 months. Then he was SDR manager, then director, then VP of worldwide sales development in like 3 years.
Yeah.
Meteoric rise from
Yeah.
SDR, but
Yeah.
they had an incredible amount of experience. I'm curious on another one that I've seen a ton. I love anybody with military experience, because they're never going to whine about hitting the cold call
Right.
targets,
Yeah.
because like this is the easiest thing they've ever done. But military experience and teachers,
Yes.
it's kind of sad that like that's the state of the education system sometimes. But there's no way I could be a teacher. I don't have the whatever it is that makes them able to empathize with all the kids. Like I just couldn't do that. And some teachers I've found when I'm interviewing somebody, I'm like, oh yeah, I used to be a teacher and this and that. I'm like,
Yeah,
almost immediately, I'm like, I'm going to hire this person.
I'm with you. Some of the best salespeople and some of the best marketers I've ever worked with were teachers. And it's the same kind of thing with the military. Like, hey, managing 30 eighth graders is so much harder for so much less money than being an SDR that, yeah, they're a great profile. And that's why, even to your point, like bartenders, like that's not an easy job either. Like I don't really care what somebody has done in the past. I'm open to all types. And I would encourage, it's, if you're really narrow and you're like, I see this mistake a lot. People write a job description, they're like 3 to 5 years of sales experience. You're going to have that role open for a long time. If you're willing to kind of get outside that comfort zone and trust yourself as a coach, part of your job is building a team. And part of that is finding people where they are, right? And developing them into the people you need them to be.